Oh my God.
A lot of the things that I see you do on Instagram have a lot to do with empowering yourself through sharing common stories with other women, with celebrities, with the celebrity book club. Is that did that kind of come around for you as your own source of well-being, or how did that get started for you?
I recap celebrity memoirs on my Instagram, but what people don't realize is that I started reading celebrity memoirs when I was like 15 years old. And part of it was because our nearest bookstore was a Target, and those are the books that are sold. And but the larger part of it is that I just like wanted to know how to get through life. I was just like, how do you, and I wanted to be in entertainment. And I was just like, how do you do anything? How do you survive bad things? How do you audition? How do you just all of it? And these books like have roadmaps in them. Like, and they have like concrete tips. And so I started reading these books and they became my self-help books of like practical things. Like one book taught me how to get an agent, and then also emotional things. It's like Jane Fonda writing about how she's going through a divorce and how she realized the relationship didn't make her happy. And then you're thinking to yourself, like, does my relationship make me happy? You're like learning from her relationship and you're guiding your own. And so I've been reading these books for many, many, many years, and they're my favorite books in the whole world because yeah, I feel like we learn the most through other people's stories, and it's easier to learn a lesson in a glitzy celebrity story than it is to just read the textbook version of like how to be good to yourself.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Kind of like a lot of the stories that you've shared on the Instagram stories that I follow have been things that I can connect with on a human level of like you said, like, am I happy in this relationship? If I would have
Yeah.
been watching that the Instagram stories of these memoirs back when I was in a stupid relationship, I would have been like maybe out of it earlier than what I.
Totally. Oh my God, totally. I mean, like 100%, like Gabrielle Union literally gives you a list of like how to do a breakup. And I was like, I really could have used this. I really could have used, but I didn't read hers till this year. But yeah.
That could be the advice to any 20-year-old, like in the early 20s, mid 20s, even the late 20s. That's when things are really confusing and you're like, you think you get your life, but you're actually really lost. Those need
So
to be
lost.
required.
Oh my God. Yeah. I bought extra copies of her book and I'm just going to give it to you. There's certain of these memoirs where I'm like, just every young woman should have this because all the questions you kind of have about like everything, like sex and breakups and blah, 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 like are in these books.
Definitely. Seeing all of this like now for me in my 30s is just kind of like this like extra push that you need to be like, yeah, screw what other people think, do your own thing, keep going forward, you've got this.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. I struggle with that a lot. Like I've just always been someone who is aware of what other people think. And it's so detrimental to you. And like I've had multiple people in life be like, I had a friend who was like, these people are just furniture and the play of your life. Don't even like give them any mind. Like they're set pieces for you. And I try and do that, but it doesn't come naturally to me.
Right. I think that like a lot of times, I don't know, maybe it's the society that we've been raised in, but self-sabotaging tends to be something that is just like a very common experience for a lot of women, where we get to
Yeah.
a point in life where things are going our way, we may be like achieving things that we had planned in the past, but then all of a sudden that doubt comes in of like, but am I enough to be doing this? Or am I legitimately doing this the right way? Or why would anybody listen to me?
Oh my gosh, totally. And I feel like I think because I do feel like I did a lot of good work in securing my core of like, that I think that it just comes from doing comedy. You just have to believe in yourself so much to get up there that eventually you're like, no, I am good. I am smart. I do deserve to be here because I've done it for so many years. But then I think what happens is once you do get your shit together, there will always be some little troll, family member, friend, a stranger on the internet, someone who is then like, you actually suck. And then you have to go beyond being like, I'm good in my own heart to being like, how do I listen to them? Do I think about it? Do I give them my time? Do I not? Like that to me feels like the next step of like, how do you take in criticism that you most likely don't deserve? And then how do you also stay aware in case you do deserve it?
Mhm.
And also it's like you have to go to the source too, and how is the source communicating to you? Because like is that entity really caring to give you something, or is that entity just trying to like push you down? And
Mhm.
it's hard to tell, especially on the internet.
Yeah, definitely. And especially like you coming from a background of comedy or like being a comedian, it's that to me is one of the most impressive talents, professions that people can have because it takes so much guts to not only get up in front of people and present your content, but to have the freedom to write down the things that you have in your mind and put them out in this way that
Oh my gosh.
response that is laughter, but also taking it into a serious kind of frame.
I love that second part of it. Like, yeah, that you have to put down your own thoughts and share them is like another, yeah, it is. I'm not gonna lie, it's the scariest. I've been in some physically scary situations, and stand-up comedy is scarier. Like, yeah, it's extremely scary. But then the cool thing about it is that you eventually stop wanting to throw up. Like and it's just the math of it. If you do it enough times that and work hard and like keep getting better, it does go away. So it's guaranteed to go away, but it's also guaranteed. The few people who walk in and don't have any fear and go usually end up being sociopaths. Like, um, but yeah, there's nothing better than sharing something you did not think would hit, and then it hits with a laugh. Especially, we've made so many strides with like women in comedy and stuff like that. But like, I still have times where like directors and castmates were like, "This joke is going to bomb, Chelsea," and being like, "Can I just try it?" And then having the women in the audience lose their minds for it, and have all the men change their mind and realize they just didn't know. They just didn't know it was funny because they couldn't relate.
That's so empowering.
It's so empowering, and it's such a good like way to like trust yourself and your own heart, and also trust that like the world that was created for us primarily from straight white men in entertainment isn't done yet. Like, we haven't fleshed it out, and like it's just what is good isn't defined yet.
Right. And you're taking kind of like a direct step into changing up the game of comedy and the way that people are able to see what it actually is. Like, we have all these defined terms of like, this is comedy, this is well-being, this is health. And it's like you said, who were the main definers of all of this?
Yeah, who defined those things to begin with? Yeah, I feel like our rubric is broken in so many industries.
So you mentioned something, you got to a certain point in comedy where you no longer felt like you were going to throw up. Can you tell me maybe a little bit about what were your coping skills for anxiety and nerves at that time, and then what has become your coping skills, if they've changed or if they're still the same, and why it works for you?
Oh my gosh, what a great question. Okay, well, my coping skills at the time, absolutely alcohol. Like, we would finish a show and drink, and it was like a soothing thing. I also would, this was one of the best pieces of advice that I came to with a friend of mine. I would line up other projects before I had. So like, let's say I had a stand-up show where I was going to perform, I would book another one so that if I bombed at this one, I still had to keep going because I'd already set it up, versus I bombed, you get depressed and you just don't keep going. So I've always like overlaid projects to as like buoys. I know it really helped me. It really helped me because you get really depressed, but then you have this other thing to keep you going. Um, and then I think another coping skill was I was using comedy as like a inner catharsis of like opinions, stories, like points of view that weren't out there. I did this joke about rape victims, and like we always think about how rape jokes are bad, but some rape jokes can be good. It's just that most rape jokes are bad, but some of them, like, let's talk about, it's a real thing that happens, and jokes can empower a side we didn't normally empower. So being able to like do something like that would then keep me going, because it like really was a movement of the heart versus just like me trying to succeed. And then, yeah, it's just tons of like talking to friends and tons of learning. Like I just took in every book, every podcast, everything just to be like, when you fail, I'm still learning, I'm still getting better, I'm still getting better. And so I just constantly put in like every piece of information I could into my body so that I could, and those books, you know what I mean? Of like, how did they fail? How did they keep going? And then I will say now the great part about it is that I built up all this like trust over the years where like I now trust that even if I fail or something's bad, I at my core am a good artist. And so it's okay. And I felt failure before, so I just go like, oh, I'm feeling failure and it's okay. But I like trust that I should keep going.
Has it ever happened to you where, you know, you get to that point where you're like, I trust myself. I'm a badass. I love myself. I'm so cool. Like, look at everybody telling me how cool I am. They must believe it too. But then like something happens and your trust in yourself falters. And you have to like come back in and remind yourself about how much you are worthy. Uh, does that ever happen to you? And when it does, is there kind of like a go-to way of coping with that, even after all of the work you've put in?
Failure happens in tandem with another party, right? So I fail when someone else doesn't buy my show. I fail when someone else doesn't laugh at my joke. So there's been times, probably once a year, where I make something that's just for me. And it's only me and it's only mine because I'm not going to fail with myself because I'm making it to please me. So every choice I make is a great choice because it's for me. Um, and then the dangerous thing you can do is that once you make it for you and you're happy with it, you then show it to other people. And you just have to be strong enough to know, even if they don't like it, you made it for yourself. But so far I've made it for myself and shown it to other people. And it's been the best things I've ever done because I wasn't trying to please anyone else.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. And that's such good advice. I know a lot of my friends, they are writers, they're creators, they're artists, and that work that they do from their heart is always the one that ends up being the thing that they're most proud of. It takes time.
Yeah.
As well, it takes time to get to that point where you realize that you could be proud of it, but it is that kind of act of self-awareness and catharsis that really creates that strong foundation for where
Totally. Yeah. And it's right. It is hard, especially in an art form where it's output, with like photos or with anything that's supposed to go to people. To just do it for yourself is hard.
the writing that you do, it's coming from a place of sincerity. And as you said, it's almost a form of catharsis to be able to take these thoughts that you have and turn them into something that you are proud of and able to share. And so your source is from yourself, but then it comes out to your audience in different forms. What has been some of your favorite forms of sharing the inspiration that you have? Has it been the podcast? Has it been writing for television shows? Is it writing in your journal? Was it writing in your journal? I love that series, by the way.
Oh my God. Oh, thank you. I've gotten nervous and I haven't put a lot out. It's definitely not writing for TV because TV, you're working in tandem with upwards of 10 people. And then there's a line of 30 executives. And so whatever you have to say, especially when you're writing for a show and it's not your own show, gets filtered. So by and far the podcast has been my favorite. And it's funny because I never thought I would have a podcast. And it's like such a like joke thing of like a comedian with another podcast. It happened so organically. I'm still shocked by it. But I think that was one of these things where it's like, I love these books and they meant so much to me, but they're not a respected genre. So it's not something you're like screaming about. And by slowly sharing them, have realized that like almost everyone loves these books, and we've all haven't shared it. So sharing that together. And then, yeah, it's my favorite thing. It's like connecting with the book, connecting with a guest. And then I have trouble. It's so funny. I'm a comedian, but I usually shared like opinions or fictional stories or point of view pieces or jokes. So I'm not really used to sharing like about me, like legit just me. Some people are great at it. I'm not. And my therapist always taught me this thing of like, when you feel shameful about something, to just do the opposite action, which would be to share it. to cancel out the shame you feel. And so on the podcast, sharing things that I feel shameful about, but I can see them in these books, and they're sharing them, and the guest is sharing them. And so then I can share them. And then it feels like, yeah, it feels incredible.
That's a whole like strengthening tie right there for not only yourself, but for the people who are listening as well. When we are able to be honest with these, you know, so-called negative things that happen in our life, and connotations and emotions and things, it's liberatory for us to be able to say it out loud, because we're no longer holding that pain in our bodies.
Yeah.
The people who are listening can feel a little bit stronger about maybe letting out some of the things that they're holding in. So
I love that. I mean, because the books do it for me. Like every time in a memoir, a woman writes something I experience and feel horrible about, I have that feeling of like, oh my God, if they share it, maybe I can share it. So I love that you said that, because then I'm like, okay, well, if I share it on the podcast, maybe someone else can share it. Then maybe we can all share it, and then maybe it won't become a shameful thing anymore because we've all shared it, and now it's a new normal thing we experience versus something we all collectively as a universe keep a secret.
No, I completely agree. Thank you for doing that.
Oh my God. Thank you for saying that.
No, thank you. So from what you've shared with me, it seems like a lot of the work that you've done for yourself has been really step by step, just being present with your feelings and finding ways to cope at the time in order to move forward, getting to this point of stability, and then still having to deal with the ups and downs. But that's all on you. What about people taking care of you? How do you like to be taken care of?
Whoa, what a question. Well, I mean, my partner Yasser, who you know, does a phenomenal job. He you know that quiz that came about like your love language, and it's so dumb and silly. Well, it turns out I have a disgusting love language, and it's gifts. It's so embarrassing. But I realized that gifts wasn't the right word, but tangible forms of love is the right word. Like I love a card, I love a flower, I love a rock, like whatever it is. So like just experiencing love through tangible items is something that my partner and I partake in, and I really like that. Deep conversations with friends. I have 2 text chains with great women in them, separate ones, and we kind of talk all day long, and there's just a constant flow of like advice and sharing and jokes. And so like these text chains just going on all day long also feel like a great source of strength. And I'm trying to think of how else I love to be taken care of. I don't know. It's tough because I feel like I'm such a doer and I'm such an alpha. So like I'm always doing things, you know? And so I think just like people verbally giving you their support, and people taking, you know how I like to be taken care of? People taking care of themselves.
Oh, that's such a mom thing to say.
I know, but I like, it's like because you know, it's like if you can emotionally be in a good place yourself for when we come together, like that's so much nicer than you being, and I don't mean like, I mean as a, not as a daily thing, but as an overall thing, that you're not blood sucking everyone around you. Yeah. You know, because I am one of those people, a stranger can enter the room in pain and I'd be like, here I go. I got to go give them everything. And so it's like taking care of me would be like taking care of yourself, so that we can both just be good. And I don't have to feel like you're not okay and I need to help you. Is that a rude thing to say?
No, that makes complete sense. And that's like also another very important topic, which maybe one day we can talk about, but boundaries. But
yeah, I don't have good boundaries. And so you setting your boundaries helps me because I will never set them.
Hey, you're clear on it.